Amnesty International is calling it a horrific tragedy. Scores and possibly hundreds of civilians have been stabbed and hacked to death in the northern Ethiopian region of Tigray. Witnesses say local forces fighting government troops in the region are to blame for the killings in Mehadere, but they so far deny carrying out the attacks. The victims are thought to be day labourers not involved in the conflict. Hostilities flared last week after the government accused the Tigray People's Liberation Front of attacking a government military camp. The UN is warning of a humanitarian crisis as thousands flee to neighbouring Sudan. As we report, the stability of the whole region is feared to be at stake.
This is a country sliding into civil war. These Ethiopians have come not to enjoy themselves, but to give blood for their soldiers fighting in Tigray state.
The main aim of the blood donation program is to express our affection, our respect for our army. The conflict is not with the Tigray, not with the Tigray people, not with the Tigray region. It's rather with the Houthi junta group who have attacked our army in a shameful way.
The conflict erupted in early November. The government sent troops into the region after an alleged attack by local forces on a federal army base in Tigray's capital.
The federal government had every right to deploy federal security forces and use force in order to apprehend those implicated in massive corruption and gross human rights violation.
Relations between the Ethiopian Prime Minister and the Tigray People's Liberation Front have long been tense. For nearly 30 years, the TPLF was dominant in Ethiopian politics. But Abyi curbed the party's influence after coming to power in 2018. Its leaders say they have been unfairly targeted. A constitutional dispute raised tensions to boiling point. The TPLF defied Abyi's decision to postpone national polls due to the coronavirus pandemic. In September, they went ahead with elections in Tigray, which they control. Not only the stability of Ethiopia is at stake in this conflict. The country, with its population of 110 million, is pivotal to the stability of the Horn of Africa as a whole. In 2019, Abyi won a Nobel Peace Prize for his sweeping political reforms and his role in brokering peace with Eritrea after a bloody border war. But so far, he's failed to heed the calls of the UN and the African Union for a ceasefire in the conflict.
Well, for more on this story, let's bring in Sam Abyi. He's with Amnesty International's crisis response team and joins us from Berlin. Sam, Amnesty brought the news about Tigray, the Tigray massacre to the world. Getting information on the region is hard with phone lines and the internet down. How do you access and verify your information?
Yeah, so very nice to be with you today. We first became aware of this massacre in Mehadere in the southwest zone of Tigray region 2 days ago. We started looking into images and eventually videos that started appearing on social media and took this very seriously. As you rightly say, it's been very hard to communicate with the region, so any information that has been coming out of the region needs to be very carefully and very thoroughly checked. We spent a good amount of time going through these videos, going through these photographs, making sure that they were taken, captured recently, making sure that they weren't from previous events from the region, to really verify and to make sure we know what had happened in Mehadere. And we coupled that with interviews of witnesses and people who'd spoken to eyewitnesses from the Mehadere region. So we're very confident when we're saying that several hundred civilians were stabbed or hacked to death in Mehadere. Who did this, we're unsure, although people have told us that it's members of the Tigray People's Liberation Front, although we cannot independently confirm that.
Sam, your organisation has also urged the Ethiopian government to restore communications and allow monitors to access the regions. Are they actually responding?
So far not, but we're obviously always open to communication. We're very keen, and we really do implore the authorities to restore all communication to Tigray. This is essential to ensure accountability and transparency for all operations on both sides of this conflict, all the military operations in the region, and also very key to ensuring that people can communicate with others in accordance with their right to freedom of expression. But monitoring this situation is very important. As you said in your report, as you said in your introduction, there are several thousand refugees crossing the border into Sudan. It's very key that the Ethiopian authorities ensure that on all sides that international humanitarian law and international human rights law is respected throughout this conflict.
Talking about that, what is most urgently needed to support the many civilians now affected by this conflict?
I think it's key that the international community really presses Ethiopia to investigate not only what's happened in Mehadere on the 9th of November, on the 10th of November, but also that the international community presses Ethiopia to ensure all sides of the conflict protect civilians. There'll be urgent need for assistance also over the border in Sudan, which I think the international community has to step up and make sure that the civilians crossing into Sudan are provided for. But really, I think where the international community must intervene is really to press the Ethiopian authorities to investigate what's gone on and to ensure that international humanitarian law and international human rights law is respected throughout.
Sam Doubly from Amnesty International's Crisis Response Team, thanks for joining us here on DW News.
Thank you.
Now, the UN's Rights Commission has called for a full inquiry into possible war crimes in Ethiopia after reports emerged of a massacre of civilians in the Tigray region. Eyewitnesses blamed Tigrayan forces loyal to the northern region's TPLF party, but they've denied this. They accuse the government soldiers of killing civilians in air raids. The UN also warned of a growing refugee crisis, saying 4,000 civilians had fled over the Sudanese border in a single day. The Ethiopian government has issued arrest warrants for senior officials in Tigray. Our correspondent Kalkidan Yebeltal gave me this update from Addis Ababa.
We came to know about these killings from a report by the rights group Amnesty International. It calls what happened in the northern state of Tigray in a place called Mehadere a massacre. It says that scores and possibly hundreds were killed. Amnesty International is saying that they have confirmed those people that are killed were not fighters, they were civilians. And it seems that a number of them were killed there. We wouldn't independently confirm or verify what's behind there. But what they're saying, what the Amnesty people are saying is some of the eyewitnesses that they talked to accused the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front, the TPLF that's engaged in fighting with the federal government. The TPLF, when these allegations began circulating, rejected this accusation. They said they denied it. And now we hear that the UN is calling for investigation, but we are understanding that this is just one of the many atrocities that we're hearing since the conflict began in Ethiopia's northernmost state.
Kalkidan Yebeltal there from the Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa.